Naruto, killing system turns Hidan into legend. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 91. Hahaha, I really didn't misread you, Sasuke Uchiha. Looking at the huge fireball that swept in, instead of being frightened, I laughed maniacally. Because, he found out that Uchiha Sasuke was just like him, killing without blinking, and he didn't know why he existed. The sand quickly turned into a huge shield wall, and the next moment, the fireball collided with the sand wall, and under the action of high temperature, the sand wall began to gradually crystallize. A gleaming glass wall appeared on the field, but Ai Luo was also protected from the fireball. Just as he breathed a sigh of relief, a series of piercing birdsong sounded. Ai Luo's expression changed, and he subconsciously controlled the remaining sand to wrap himself into a round ball, absolutely defensive. It's a pity that the current Ai Luo is still too young, and he has never had an absolute defense, just that he thinks himself. Chidori. Sasuke's left hand carried a pale blue thunder light, and his physical activity became particularly active under the stimulation of Chidori, and his speed also increased by leaps and bounds. In the blink of an eye, Sasuke stabbed with Chidori on top of Era's absolute defense. Snap. Inside the pitch-black sand sphere, the sound of blood dripping onto the dirt sounded. Sasuke's left hand pierced into Era's absolute defense with thunder. Blood. My blood. It's my blood. Yes. The horse-dog roar of my love was heard in the sandball, and he, who had never shed blood, was finally broken this taboo today. Kankuro and Temari on the stand looked at Era with a worried expression, but they didn't expect that he would be forced to such a point. Marky of the shinobi village frowned. He had some bad premonitions in his heart. Ai Luo may be out of control. Their plan, maybe, can only start early. Sasuke looked coldly at the orb in front of him, and he could clearly feel the vitality that was still flourishing inside. Ai Luo dodged his fatal blow at the crucial moment. The attack that was obviously hit the heart, but it was blocked by the sand, causing it to shift its position and only hit my Iroha's shoulder. However, Sasuke is a person who knows the true legend of the flying paragraph. Will he just give up? Since you can't kill him, then scrap him. Sasuke chakra condensed to his left hand, and the pale blue thunder and lightning began to condense again. Chidori sharp gun. A blue pillar of light 2 fingers wide came out of the sandball. What followed was the hoarse cry of my Iroha, and his murderous intent full of hatred. Fei Duan in the audience showed a satisfied smile, satisfied with Sasuke's decisive killing. What a good seedling. For generations of Wind Shadow looked at Sasuke under the field with burning eyes, worthy of being a perfect body. Under the veil, the long tongue unconsciously licked the dry lips. I love Luo. I love Luo. Kankuro and Temari shouted loudly, and they all looked at the field worriedly. They didn't expect that Era would be completely suppressed by Sasuke from the beginning, and even hit hard. In this way, maybe their plans may change a little. Under the rage, I love Luo, it will get out of control. Sure enough, the next moment, Sasuke felt a strange feeling on his left hand. What wrapped around his left hand was not like sand, but like the cold and terrifying hand of a demon. But Sasuke, who was tormented by the endless nightmares of the flying section, his mind had long reached the point of indestructibility. As long as Uchiha Itachi is not dead, then Sasuke's hatred is enough to sustain him to face everything. Thunder flashed above his left hand again, and he slowly pulled out of the sandball. This time, the contents did not stop it, but quietly stared at Sasuke through the hole that Sasuke Chidori had punched. Monster. Sasuke was shocked, and through the observation of the Sharingan, he found that Era in the sand ball had actually lost his human appearance. Roar. An earth-shattering roar came from within the sand ball, and the sound penetrated the sky. Not good. Marky in the shadows exclaimed, Ai Luo actually lost control so quickly. Kankuro and Temari looked even more terrified. I love Luo's form, they are deeply afraid. In that form, Ai Luo is a killing machine, and once I get close, I will be mercilessly slaughtered by him. It's finally about to start. Since my Ai Luo has already stormed away, then the big snake pill should also be impatient. Fei Duan looked up at the location where the great snake pill was, waiting for the great snake pill to launch this doomed war. Sure enough, under the observation of the flying segment, a guy disguised as a member of the dark department slightly used illusion on the entire audience. A group of ordinary people and daimyos in the audience fell into a coma. Outside Konoha village, a huge 3-headed giant snake broke through the walls of Konoha village and entered the village head-on. Countless shinobi village and sand shinobi village also began to invade one after another, and there was a fierce confrontation with Konoha, and countless deaths and injuries were incurred for a while. Above the stands, the 4 generations of Wind Shadow also slashed at the ape flying sun in an instant, holding the ape flying sun slash with his shuriken. Everything happened between the electric flint, and the situation under the field also changed terribly. Click. Little by little, the sandball cracked, and a huge arm stretched out from the huge crack. The arms were sandy yellow with strange patterns on them, and the giant hand slammed into the ground, causing the entire ground to follow. This what kind of monster is it? Sasuke was in front of the monster and felt a huge pressure, and the terrifying and cold chakra made him feel an inexplicable feeling of heart palpitations. That's not something you can handle. Hibito's playful voice came from behind Sasuke. What is it? After Sasuke's arrival in the flying section, his trembling heart gradually calmed down. Tailed beast. The weakest tail Moritsuru. Hida waved his hand, signaling that Sasuke could leave. Iai Luo's debt. Now it's time to pay it back. It just so happens that Fei Duan also wants to see if the so-called tailed beast will die, and can it be resurrected after death? I haven't released it for a long time, and Fei Duan wants to experience the fun of battle. Episode 92. In the end, the sand ball was completely shattered, and a behemoth popped out of the sand ball. Fei Duan looked at the one-tailed crane in front of him, which was about the same size as Toad Tai, and complained weakly in his heart, God's special tanuki, what is this guy like a tanuki? The fat body, covered with blue-purple patterns, hideous big mouth, fat big tail, this is a soil fat round fly segment. Can you deal with this guy? Kakashi flashed up to Hida's side and asked eagerly, now that foreign enemies have invaded, they need to go to support. Well, this soil fat round will be handed over to me, you can feel free. Fei Duan had an indifferent expression, dealing with a small tail, this was still no problem, although the use of pseudo-eternal moon reading made him a little tired, but it was not completely ineffective. Then it's up to you, Kai, let's go. Kakashi beckoned to Kai and killed the enemies who had come in the village. And at this time, with Hida to deal with the tail that Iai Luo, Naruto Sasuke, and the others naturally had nothing to do, but Kankuro and Temari were unlucky, and they were directly arrested by Sasuke and them. As soon as the chaos is over, they will be detained for interrogation. On the roof where the 3 generations of Hokage and the Great Snake Pill are located, the 4 purple flame array has also been laid out by Ghost Boy Pill and others, and the Great Snake Pill and the Ape Flying Sun / inside have already begun a tentative confrontation. I hope this time, you won't fight for your life. Fei Duan glanced at the 4 purple flame arrays where the Ape Flying Sun / was, and said with emotion, in general, he still didn't want the 3 generations of Hokage to die, even if he repaid the grace of the 8 gates of Dunjia, he had to save him once. Shook his head, the Ape Flying Sun will not be desperate for a while, or solve the guy in front of him. At this time, the one-tailed crane was not awakened by my AI Luo using the false sleep technique, but the complete body form of the Shotsuru directly released after my AI Luo went berserk, and the figure of my AI Luo has completely disappeared and is hidden in the body of the Shotsuru. Roar. The crane that completely saw the sky again, just appeared and roared again, the perennial seal, has made it almost crazy. This time out I don't know how long it will be sealed again. Shoha's heart was full of a strong desire for destruction, and he wanted to slaughter all the living creatures he saw in front of him. Raising his huge palm, he slapped it towards the closest flying segment in front of him. His anger needed to be released with human blood, but apparently, he had found the wrong opponent. Chidori Sharp Gun. The crimson pillar of light cut horizontally, and Shoha's huge sand-like palm was cut off alive and fell to the ground, emitting a roar. Roar, to die for me. The angry Shizuru finally spoke, instead of simply roaring, but anger finally carried away its mind, and it did not have the slightest guard against a person who could easily cut off its palm. The red-white thunder on Fei Duan's right hand continued to hiss, and he looked coldly at the Shoha in front of him. This guy is really weak. It is worthy of the existence that even Toad Tai can walk with him for a few moves. However, what surprised Fei Duan was that the body of a tailed crane was like quicksand, and the arm that was cut off by Fei Duan turned into a small river of sand, flew back to the broken arm of the crane, and recondensed and formed. Sure enough, every tailed beast not only has a huge chakra, but also has its unique ability. Looking at Shizuru's broken arm recovery, Hijuin touched his chin and thought, but he remembered that when Naruto fought Pain, the 9 tails that appeared almost completely above the Earth explosion star, but they spewed out monstrous flames, and the 4 tails are even able to control the magma to use the molten escape, which proves this problem, and Naruto's nature of the spiral pill can change after obtaining the chakra of the 9-tailed beasts. Fei Duan was thinking, if he sealed Shoha's half of his body into his body, would he also be able to manipulate the sand? Soon, however, an angry Shizuru interrupted his thoughts. A powerful chakra formed in front of Shoha's mouth like a liquid, and gradually turned into a pitch-black ball, the size of which was half the size of Shoha's head. The concentrated chakra inside exudes a terrifying deterrent, and once it erupts, it produces terrifying damage enough to destroy a hill. Swoosh! The tailed beast Jade struck at an extremely fast speed against the ground, leaving a deep mark on the ground, and it was about to approach the flying section. But for Fei Duan, whether you are a tailed beast Jade, or a 10-tailed beast Jade, it is useless. The divine power is in hand. The tailed beast Jade is useless, but transferring the 10-tailed beast Jade requires more chakra. Kamui. When the tailed beast Jade was about to shoot into Fei Duan's body, a huge spatial vortex suddenly appeared in front of Fei Duan's body, and in the blink of an eye, the tailed beast Jade was sucked in, and not even a trace of waves was produced. Shoha, and this operation? Lord Tanuki said that he was not happy. How to play this? I've amplified the move. You're still so relaxed. Can you give some face? You should hide, let it explode, and watch a firework. Do you know that putting a squib in this way makes people, make the tailed beast very uncomfortable? That's awesome. What kind of ability is that? actually turning that terrifying chakra ball into nothing at once. Naruto, who was watching the battle from afar, said excitedly, shocked by Hido's understatement of defusing the monster's attack. Sasuke still looked at the flying segment coolly, without saying a word, but his heart still felt trembling for such a powerful power as the flying segment, which is the power born of the kaleidoscope chakra the terrifying power. Everyone present was frightened by the means of the flying section, even the big snake pill and ape flying sun chop and others who were fighting in full swing also looked sideways. After all, the horror of the tailed beast is well known, even if it is only the weakest one. Ichigo Morizuru, who had just come out for less than 3 minutes, finally knew what fear was, and the man in front of him was not on the same level as it at all. It even thought that an existence like the Nine Tails might not be his opponent. Episode 93, Run Away. This is the only thought Shoha has now. It has a hunch that once it falls into the hands of this man, it will end up very miserable. Because, the look in the man's eyes when he looked at him was too terrifying, and it was the first time that Shoha had seen a human looking at him with such eyes. It is a little confusing who is the monster-like existence. You know, I'm a tailed beast that everyone fears. Which one in Sand Ninja Village is not respectful of me? What kind of attitude are you? You really look down on the tailed beast. Fei Duan naturally felt the fear contained in Shoha's small eyes, and there was a hint of mockery in his scarlet pupils. With a huge tail, how can he run away and run past himself? Not to mention that he still has the divine skill of Shinwei. Shoha, you say, will you tailed beasts face the problem of death? Fei Duan raised his head and looked at the huge Shizuru. He wanted to get the answer from Shoha's mouth. Hearing the question that made Fei Duan feel terrifying like this, Shoha's fat body couldn't help but tremble slightly. It doesn't understand why this human being is interested in such a question. How does this make it say and answer? Say it won't die? So what if the other party wants to verify it? Say you will die? Then the other party just wants to kill you, what to do? In any case, it doesn't seem to do it any good. How to answer, so as not to be killed to do research? Wait online, it's quite urgent. In the end, Shoha still succumbed to Fei Duan's obscenity, and honestly explained. The tailed beast appeared by the 6 immortals using yin and yang to separate the 10 tails. We are all aggregates of chakra. Under normal circumstances, we will not die, but there are also powerful beings who can kill the tailed beast. However, the tailed beast of death will reconcile and resurrect after a period of time, and even consciousness will be restored to the situation before death. Shoha explained to the flying section angrily. His small eyes kept staring at the flying segment, and his fat body was tense, for fear that the flying section suddenly wanted to experiment with it. So that's it. The flying segment finally understood, because it is itself the product of the formation of chakra, and to put it bluntly, it is a chakra aggregate with consciousness. After the death of the tailed beast, chakra gathered back together little by little, and then he was able to appear in the field of human vision again. I have to say that such an existence is sometimes really enviable, but it is also coveted, an infinite chakra donor, who doesn't want it? Even if he is an immortal body of the flying section, he is also facing the process of his body growing until he ages, that is, he will also die. So Fei Duan sought the secret of the tailed beast's immortality. He didn't want to die. He was originally just an ordinary person. After gaining strength and growing continuously, he naturally longed for more things. Human desires can never be satisfied, and the flying segment longs for greater power and eternal life. Hidan has always been curious, and as a direct relative of Kagaya Atsuki, Atsuki Hakai and his younger brother Atsuki Hamura eventually died. However, Dadamu Kagaya was sealed for countless years, still alive and well, and finally reappeared with Madara's body, and even Heiju existed for many years without dying. Alas, now that I want to do so much, I haven't come to that step yet, so let's start with the matter in front of me first. Fei Duan returned his gaze to Shotsuru's body, and the root of everything was still caused by the tailed beast. The original 10 tails, now the 9 tails. Shinyu Jiaowei, for elephant seal. As soon as the seal was completed, several chains formed by chakra flew out of Fei Duan's body, and suddenly shot into Shoha's body. What are you doing? Shizuru let out a terrified cry, but now his body could not move freely, and was bound by the chains formed by the 4 elephant seals. Don't be afraid, I will only take half of your body, and I will not completely deprive you. The flying segment controlled the chain to pull a huge chakra out of Shoha's body little by little, and Shoha's body was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Sure enough, chakra's departure will make the size of the tailed beast decrease, just like when the wave Feng Shui gate sealed the 9 tails. Fei Duan showed a hint of a smile, which once again proved that the tailed beast was just a simple chakra aggregate, and there was no other specialty. At most, it was just different abilities, and the strength of chakra was different. Under the continuous pull of the flying segment, soon Shoha split into 2 and became the yin and yang sides, and the yang side was sealed into his body by the flying segment, waiting for the opportunity to use the pseudo-eternal moon reading to control it. And the Shoha, who was divided in 2, was seriously shrunk in size, far less than half of the previous one, and even did not have the huge size of Toad Wenta. Shoha looked at his shrunken body desolately, wanting to cry without tears. Body made of sand, where did the tears come from? Fei Duan looked at Shoha and nodded with satisfaction. At least this time it didn't look like soil fertilizer. The thinner Shizuru still looks more like a tanuki, at least. Okay, you can go back to his body. Completely ignoring the resentment on Shoha's face, Fei Duan said coldly, even if this guy is shrunk, the destructive power is still very strong. But as soon as it returns to my AI Luo's body, as AI Luo's consciousness wakes up, it will fall into a deep sleep. Shoha's hesitation on his face was finally released, and he didn't get any venting, and he was also sealed half by the pervert of Fei Duan. After this is over, let yourself drill back. Is this using yourself as a chakra cash machine? Release it when you want, kick it back if you don't want it. Be a man with a conscience. Just gave you a half of my body, albeit forced, and now you mercilessly let me go back. Won't your conscience hurt? Seeing Shoha's unwilling expression, Fei Duan showed a cold smile. Unwilling? What does that have to do with him? If it weren't for the purpose of keeping my AI Luo useful in the future, he would directly kill Shizuru now to verify what it said. Shohei's eyes turned cold when he saw Fei Duan's eyes, and he couldn't help but tremble. This man was too powerful, so strong that he didn't even have the ability to fight back. In the end, Shoha could only helplessly shrink until it completely retracted into Mailua's body. Episode 94. With the disappearance of the Morizuru, the ninjas of Konoha let out earth-shattering cheers, and their morale was greatly boosted. The people of Sand Shinobi Village and Oto Ninja Village are gradually demoralizing, the kind of depression that cannot be attacked for a long time, and the panic caused by the disappearance of Shizuru. They gradually began to lose confidence in victory. Alas, it's a pity that this guy can't kill yet, otherwise he should be able to get a good killing point. Fei Duan looked at Iai Luo, who was lying unconscious on the ground, and sighed secretly, but he even wondered if he killed the tailed beast, would he get the ability of the tailed beast? For example, real immortality? Transforming yourself into a body made of chakra? However, Fei Duan did not carry out such an experiment, just because of a very simple problem. The killing system's judgment is to kill the other party, but if it can't be killed at all, then what is the deprivation ability? This is also the problem that the flying segment is struggling with. Putting all of this aside, Fei Duan's eyes were on a man who came straight to my Iroh, Marky. The upper level of this Sand Ninja Village, the master of my AI Luo 3-person squad, was looking at my AI Luo lying on the ground with a worried face. Of course, as a ruthless existence who even regarded his own apprentice as part of the plan, he was not worried about the life and death of AI Luo, but about the one in his body. For the people of Sand Ninja Village, the human pillar power is an indispensable combat power, and the tailed beast must not have the slightest loss. People can die, but the tailed beast cannot be lost. And just under his nose, the monster of Shoha actually shrank by more than half. Maybe the ordinary people in Sand Shinobi Village didn't know what it was, but as a high-ranking person, how could he not understand what it meant for Shizuru, as a chakra aggregate, to lose more than half of his body? At this time, his heart was dripping blood, and his gaze towards Fei Duan was even more unconcealed hatred. It was this man who let their plan be completely ruined, and even suffered heavy losses, and he couldn't wait to eat the flying section alive now. However, Maji didn't dare to have any thoughts about Fei Duan. Even Shoha was easily sealed by him. How could he be his opponent? Since you're here, you don't have to go, Fei Duan said to Marky coldly. Since the beginning of the war until now, he has not caught any killing points. This guy who sent to the door in front of him, he will not let it go anymore. An elite Shainin also has 1,500 killing points. Marky instantly felt as if he was being targeted by a flood beast, or the kind of super ferocious beast that can defeat the tailed beast. Cold sweat dripped down his spine. We throw in the towel. We are willing to compensate Konoha for any losses this time, and we have been deceived. Our 4th generation of Wind Shadows has been impersonated, Marky said in a hurry. Since Orochimaru revealed his true face, he understood the problem. Why did they suddenly carry out any plan, or joined forces with Oto Ninja Village? Now it seems that everything can be explained. Fei Duan looked at Maji, who was changing in front of him, and naturally knew what he was thinking. The Sand Ninja Village was used by the Great Snake Pill, causing both sides of the Konoha Sand Ninja Village to suffer heavy losses. But what does this have to do with the flying segment? As long as the key character does not die, then the flying segment does not matter. As for the compensation that Marky proposed, to hell with it. What compensation can have a killing point crisply and neatly? I'm sorry, a truce or something. I'm not the slightest interest. Ha ha ha, Fei Duan laughed maniacally. Truce? From the beginning, when Orochimaru began to execute Konoha's collapse plan, Hidan already had his own ideas. Why can't this be used to start a real war between two villages? War means death, and death is what Fei Duan loves. Marky's eyes seemed to freeze. This crazy guy in front of him didn't have the slightest Konoha style at all, and he didn't intend to stop this war. This conspiracy from the Great Snake Pill has been exposed, and the person in front of him actually wants to use this conspiracy to start a war. Marky's mind thought of countless things in a moment, but he couldn't come to a conclusion. That is, why did the guy in front of him look eager for war? Unfortunately, he obviously won't have a chance to think about it again, and this time, among the people who can return to Sand Shinobi Village from Konoha, there is only a 3-person squad of Iero, Amaterasu. A wisp of blood flowed down the corner of Fei Duan's right eye, and the blood stain made Fei Duan's eyes even more terrifying and evil. Marky, on the other hand, turned into a pitch-black flame amid a scream, and disappeared into the world without leaving a trace. The entry of 1,500 killing points still made the flying section finally have some comfort. Turning his head to look at the battle situation between the third generation of Hokage and the Great Snake Pill, it has almost reached the point of white-hot, and under the incomplete attack of the first and second generations, the ape flying sun slash has already been very difficult. It seems that this time, you can't save the old man. The war between Konoha and the shinobi village is an indispensable thing. Fei Duan looked at the roof, his eyes gradually became cold, and there was no trace of temperature in his heart. If Ape Fei Sun Chopper is still alive, then judging from his wrist, he must still choose to implement the so-called peace policy, which is not what Fei Duan wants to see. What Fei Duan wants is that war comes, and even if it is possible, even if it causes a big war between the 5 great ninja villages, it is not impossible. Huh? Fei Duan's eyes changed, and he felt that the chakra on the ape flying sun slash and the 4 purple yen array had changed drastically. Behind the ape flying sun, something cold and strange seemed to have emerged. However, even the Sharingan cannot see what it is. Is this the so-called Grim Reaper, sealed by ghouls? This strange existence, as well as the existence of this sealing technique, are very strange. And the existence of the Grim Reaper will determine his ability to harvest souls according to the strength of the caster, and all the souls harvested by the Grim Reaper are still gathered together and exist in the belly of the Grim Reaper. Fei Duan had to admit that the clansmen of the Vortex clan who created the ghoul seal were really geniuses, and such a sealing technique was really rare in the world. However, Fei Duan was not afraid of such a sealing technique, because, under the observation of the eternal kaleidoscope of the flying segment, although it cannot be completely seen, it is sensitive to the fact that the god of death is a spirit body. Only in this way can other souls be sealed. But for things like souls, Fei Duan is really not afraid at all. The 10-fist sword held by Susanoo of the flying segment, this artifact between real and illusory, against a spirit body like the Shinigami, it can also slash 2 stages in one go. Episode 95. Phaeton did not focus on the decisive battle on the roof, since the 3 generations of Hokage had already used the ghoul seal. Then he had already sacrificed his soul to the Shinigami. Hidan didn't intend to stop his actions either, and now he was most concerned about how many ninjas were left to invade Konoha. These are all killing points, no matter how small the mosquito is, it is also meat. What's more, if you want to provoke a war, then none of these people can let go, and if Chiyo's wife is completely sad, a war between the 2 villages is possible. 8 doors Dunjia Dimen, open. In order to clean up these trash fish faster in a short period of time, Fei Duan directly opened the 5th gate of the 8 doors of Dunjia, and the speed was incomparably increased, and the violent chakra circulated in the body. But the flying section felt very happy, and this violent feeling made him intoxicated. With the existence of the immortal body, he can open the 8 doors of Dunjia unscrupulously. Boom! The random movement of the flying section carries a terrifying sonic boom, and the increase brought by the 8-door Dunjia is terrifying. Ugh! The first ninja of the Sand Ninja village died at the hands of Fei Duan, and was directly blasted into pieces by a punch, and then Fei Duan fell into endless killing. Countless Otobi village and Sand Shinobi village were ruthlessly killed by Fei Duan, and the number of enemies was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is? Kakashi and Kai looked at the green flashes that were constantly moving at high speed in the battlefield, and every time he moved, he would take a living life. 8-gate Dunjia. Kai said persistently, he really couldn't understand the familiar chakra fluctuations. As a specialized in physical arts, the 8 gates Dunjia could be said to be the only skill he had learned. The Sharingan can't keep up with his speed at all, and the speed is already so fast that even the afterimage can't survive. Kakashi rubbed his left eye a little tiredly, and said helplessly, he didn't know that Fei Duan had also practiced forbidden arts such as the 8 gates of Dunjia, and Fei Duan had never used it before, which could be regarded as a whole card. It's just that now in order to grab people's heads, they took it out and performed it once in the eyes of everyone. Kai, I'm afraid this is the 5th door, Demon Kakashi asked with a heavy face. Well, that's right, this is the terrifying speed increase brought by Demon, and random actions can carry the terrifying speed of sonic booms. Kai also said with a solemn face, this guy who didn't know where to appear, as soon as he came up, he desperately opened the 8 doors of Dunjia, and put it like this for the village. Kakashi and Kai were both full of grief and indignation at the person who opened the 8 doors of Dunjia, and they didn't think that any person could open the other 7 doors except the 8th door like Kai without damage. Apparently, they all already thought that this guy was an existence that he intended to sacrifice for Konoha. How did they know that in fact, Fei Duan simply robbed people's heads, and as for dedicating his life to Konoha, it was even more nonsense. The battle quickly began and ended quickly, and the green figure disappeared from everyone's field of vision in a blink of an eye. Alas, Kakashi and Kai both sighed. They both thought that the man who gave his life for Konoha apparently did not want others to see his sad end, so they avoided everyone and chose to face death alone. If you fly until these 2 goods think, you can't call them to the wall with a big mouth. How can it end sadly? How can you give up your life and forget about death? Fei Duan is just going out to chase and kill those fleeing guys, After Fei Duan joins the battlefield, it has almost become a one-sided situation, and those people in Sand Ninja Village and E Ninja Village are not all fools. It is human nature to fear death, and ninjas are not exempt from vulgarity. However, the arrival of the flying stage is like the scythe of the harvest of death. How can these people who are not even at the shadow level be able to escape? A small war finally ended, ending with the total destruction of Sand Ninja Village and Otono Village. Host panel. Fei Duan whispered in his heart. Host, fly segment fly, strength, super shadow level, does not count special abilities, blood limit, eternal kaleidoscope Sharingan, 100,000 kill points required for upgrade, physique, full, ninjutsu, spell death division by blood, 1 paragraph, forbidden technique, dirt rebirth, complete, 8 doors done jia, instantaneous body technique, fire done mastery, thunder done mastery, special, immortal body, perception, weapons, bloody march scythe, black spear, decapitation knife, kill point, 25363, sure enough, only war can make the killing point increase by leaps and bounds, dozens of upper ninja, dozens of middle ninja, and nearly 100 lower ninja. Directly let me increase the killing point by more than 20,000. Fei Duan's eyes flashed with a greedy glint that had allowed him to gain a huge amount of killing points just by a small war. So what if it was a large-scale war, like the 4th Shinobi War? In that way, he is estimated to be able to directly open the Eye of Reincarnation, and there is even a huge surplus. But the idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel, and a war like that is difficult to start without planning. But the flying segment is now to provoke a war between Konoha and the Shinobi village. As long as the two villages can fight, then the flying segment can also reap a lot of killing points. Putting away all the thoughts in his heart, he lifted the 8-gate Dunjia and walked back towards Konoha village. At this time, the 8 flying sun slash should no longer be able to do it, and the big snake pill should have retreated. And I'm afraid, the big snake pill seems to have to consider whether the flying section will find him trouble. After all, he agreed to the flying section and left 3 generations of old men with his life. But the 3 generations of old men were so desperate, in order to keep the big snake pill, completely disregarding their own life and death, they used forbidden techniques to cut off the souls of the big snake pill's hands. When Hida returned to Konoha, the entire village was plunged into a sad atmosphere, full of ruins and ruins, completely lacking the thriving appearance of Hibi when he first arrived. A group of Konoha's upper ninja all gathered around a coffin. Without saying a word, the death of 3 generations of Hokage reminded them once again of the cruelty of war and hatred of foreign enemies. With the retreat of Orochimaru, the entire army of Sand Shinobu Village and Oto Ninja Village was destroyed, and this time no one could explain the conspiracy between the 2 shinobi villages, and Aira took advantage of the chaos to take Kankuro and Temari away and return to Sand Ninja Village. Fei Duan's purge operation made the conspiracy of the big snake pill completely become a mystery that no one can explain. Episode 96. The 3 generations of Hokage have not yet been buried, and the Konoha ninjas who have just experienced the battle have not yet had time to prepare for the funeral of the 3 generations of Hokage. The death of 3 generations of Hokage made these ninjas who had been immersed in peace in the past feel for the first time that war and death were so close. Fei Duan approached slowly, looking at the 3 generations of old men in the crystal coffin. There was still a trace of waves in his heart. After all, this is an old man who has good intentions for him, and Fei Duan can feel the goodness that comes from him. However, the next moment, Fei Duan's heart became more firm and cold. In this world, strength is everything, and if the 3 generations of Hokage have unrivaled strength, then any intrigue and trickery will come to naught. Fei Duan knows everything in this world, and when the strength reaches a certain realm, even resurrection and rebirth can be done, and even immortality can be achieved. Isn't Kagaya Atsuki the best proof of this? Fei Duan's belief is once again firm, only strength is the most sincere pursuit, with strength you have everything. Hibi, Naruto-sama's funeral begins tomorrow. Kakashi walked up to Hibi and said in a heavy tone, his eyes full of complexity. I see. Fei Duan responded lightly. The union of Sand Ninja Village and Oto Ninja Village this time, I will not let them go. Hida stared at Kakashi coldly. He just wanted to make it clear to them that he wanted to avenge the 3 generations of Hokage. Don't mess around. This matter was originally full of conspiracies, even the big snake pill appeared, and this matter needed to wait for discussion. Kakashi's expression changed. He didn't expect Hida to actually make such a plan. Did he want to make Konoha and the 2 villages enemies at the same time? I have already found out that Oto Ninja Village is the ninja village created by Orochimaru, and it was Orochimaru who launched a surprise attack on Konoha in conjunction with Sand Ninja Village. But for some reason Orochimaru killed the 4th generation of Kazekage and replaced it, completing the launch of the entire conspiracy alone. Half-truthfully, Fei Duan's pupils became red, and the eternal kaleidoscope slowly rotated in his eyes. Monthly reading. Kakashi is transported into a space of illusion, a so-called answer space created for him by the flying segment. During the illusion, Hijuan caught the ninjas of Oto Ninja Village and Sand Ninja Village, interrogated them with illusion, and then each of the ninjas of Oto Ninja Village came up with the same answer from their mouths. That answer was the explanation given by Hida. And then Hida slaughtered all the ninjas of Oto Ninja Village and Sand Ninja Village, and walked back to Konoha step by step from the blood. Fei Duan's pupils returned to normal, turning into deep lilac pupils, which were full of secrets that no one knew. Is that so? Kakashi came back from the illusion, his expression constantly changing, and the death of the 3 generations of Hokage made him, who had always been full of wisdom, unable to determine whether what Hida said was true, and subconsciously chose to believe. After all, the flying segment had never done anything to damage Konoha. The current Konoha group of dragons is leaderless, let's wait for the new Hokage to be selected before making a conclusion. Kakashi is not an ordinary person, and although he believes Fei Duan's explanation, he still persuades that he does not want Hida to be impulsive and go alone to seek revenge. How did he know that with the strength of the flying section, even if he faced the 2 ninja villages alone, there was no pressure at all, and the only deficiency that might be that his chakra was still limited. He is not like Banyi, who appeared at the beginning and was a reincarnation of dirt, chakra, infinite existence. He will also be tired, chakra will also have a moment of exhaustion, and his body will also be tired. Just like the original 3 generations of Thunder Shadow, his strength is undeniable, but he was still dragged to death by tens of thousands of people. It's just that Fei Duan has one more advantage, that is, the existence of Shinwei. He can never be forced into a corner. The blood sea space judged by the system is not opened by the flying segment, and outsiders cannot enter, and the flying section is naturally convinced of the system's judgment. No matter what the next generation of Hokage chooses, my personal attitude will not change. Hibi replied coldly to Kakashi, then turned to leave. His next stop was the route where Tuanzo was. This conspiracy launched by the Great Snake Pill, how could there be no group hiding in it? What's more, Danzo originally hoped that the 3 generations of Hokage would step down. Joining forces with the Great Snake Pill was already doomed. It's just that Fei Duan is not going to find Danzo to avenge the 3 generations of old men or something. What he wants to do is to let a person with a certain status in Konoha stand up, and Tuanzo is a good candidate. As long as Danzo stands up and expounds on why the 3 generations of Hokage died, then the hatred of the entire Konoha village will be ignited, and the war against the Sand Ninja Village and the Oto Ninja Village can naturally start under the continuous impetus of the flying section. At that time, even if Naruto retrieves Tsunade as the 5th Hokage, it will no longer be able to stop the spread of war. What's more, the entire army of Sand Shinobi Village was destroyed this time, except for Iai Luo and the others who were deliberately let go by Fei Duan. None of them survived, so wouldn't the unaware Chiyo mother-in-law have a grudge against Konoha? Fei Duan doesn't believe that this old woman is good, she definitely can't bear this breath, although the Sand Ninja Village is not strong now, but it doesn't mean that they can't pull foreign aid. For example, Wuing Village is a good foreign aid option. The last time Mistine sent Ching and Zaibu and others to intercept Kakashi's failure, Hijuan and the others did not have any intention to cover up, and a little check would tell it. Fei Duan does not believe that if there is a war, Sand Ninja Village will not fail to ask for help. After all, since the 4th generation of Wind Shadows, the strength of Sand Ninja Village has declined seriously. So much so that the 4th generation of Wind Shadow even used his own son as the ultimate weapon, making him a human pillar force, wanting to use this to improve the strength of Sand Ninja Village. Even in order to guard against Konoha, he joined forces with the Big Snake Pill, but unfortunately he was eaten back by the cold poisonous snake and died, and the rest of the people in the Sand Ninja Village also became pawns in the hands of the Big Snake Pill, which is not sad. Fei Duan is ready for the next battle, and his army of dirt reincarnation may be in this war. It should also be released, and the feeling of hiding behind the scenes as a chess player may be very good. Episode 97. In the pitch-black and gloomy route headquarters, the spatial vortex descended, and the figure of the flying section appeared in front of Tuanzong. Long time no see, Tuanzong, your conspiracy is still so good. As soon as they met, Fei Duan did not hesitate to praise. He really admired the perfect conspiracy between Tuanzong and the Great Snake Pill. Orochimaru helped Danzo get rid of the 3 generations of Hokage, and Danzo provided convenience to Orochimaru. And even when Konoha was in chaos, not a single root member appeared. There is also the existence of the dark part impersonated by the Big Snake Pill's subordinates. If there is no Tuanzang's intervention, Fei Duan does not believe that the Big Snake Pill alone can have such a heavenly ability. Is there something going on? There was an unconcealable excitement in Tuanzang's tone. The death of Sarutobi meant that for the first time he was so close to the location of the Hokage, it could be said that it was within reach. Fei Duan looked at Tuanzang's unconcealable mood fluctuations. He was really a little speechless. The position of the Hokage attracted him so much. This conspirator, who is good at exploiting people's hearts, spends his days thinking about the position in the light. How can he know that in fact, that position is not suitable for him at all? However, this time, Hida didn't want this guy to end up easily in Sasuke's hands. Danzo is a good pawn, especially since he now has a right arm full of Sharingan, and Sharingan's right eye. Fei Duan is very curious. As a foreigner, Tuanzong fuses the original cell and the Sharingan, and his right arm is sealed all year round, just to make the Sharingan and the arm more perfectly fused. As a result, in the battle with Sasuke, he had to unlock the seal, and finally destroyed it, and even sealed his body with the four-elephant seal engraved on his body in order to protect the eyes of Shursui from being taken away. It can be said that there are no bones left. This time, the flying segment will not let Sasuke that guy disrupt his plans. Danzo is not only an important pawn of the flying segment, but also a test product that makes him look forward to it. The eternal kaleidoscope of Uchiha combined with Mudan finally opened the Eye of Reincarnation, so can Tuanzang, a foreigner, create a surprise for the flying segment in the passage of time? Danzo, I want you to stand up and promote the war between Konoha and Sand Shinobi Village and Oto Ninja Village. Fei Duan lightly stated the purpose of this trip. His eyes looked directly at Tuanzang, and there was a flame called madness burning inside. Tuanzang's face froze. He didn't expect Fei Duan to actually say such an order, but he was full of anticipation thinking about how to become a Hokage. However, with the existence of other heavenly gods, Tuanzang could not refuse Fei Duan's order at all. Yes, I will do my best to promote the start of this war. Tuanzang's face returned to calm, and he said seriously, Fei Duan nodded in satisfaction, and activated Shinwei to lead the root of darkness. Early the next morning, the entire Konoha fell into an indescribable calm, and countless Konoha ninjas, dressed in black robes, gathered together with sad expressions. In front of them were the tombstones of 3 generations of Hokage Ape Flying Sun, and people constantly stepped forward to put a blooming white chrysanthemum, and countless memories flashed in everyone's hearts. Those are all fond memories of the existence of the 3 generations of Hokage. Fei Duan stood in the crowd, looking at all this with a cold expression, silently thinking in his heart, this is the sadness and pain caused by insufficient strength. Fei Duan didn't want to feel the despair he had before, the feeling of watching his loved ones being killed by others but unable to do anything. While the memorial service for the 3 generations of Hokage was going on, 2 unexpected visitors also arrived in the ruined village of Konoha, the dried persimmon Onako and the Uchiha weasel. Itachi, is this your hometown? Although it was not completely destroyed by the big snake pill, it seemed to be dilapidated. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel said to the weasel beside him, looking at the broken village under his feet and remembering his hometown. Get ready to act. Capturing Naruto is key. The mission is the most important. The ferret did not reply, and when he returned to this village again, about to meet those familiar people, his heart naturally could not be calm. In particular, the current Itachi is not the same as he was a few years ago. He learned about a ninjutsu called Dirt Rebirth, and it was from Orochimaru when he made a move. This made Weasel's heart have a trace of thought, and for the first time, he had a little understanding of the rebirth that Fei Duan said at the beginning. Let's go. Itachi slowly disappeared into the walls of Konoha's village with the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. They should already be ready to enter Konoha. After the memorial service, Fei Duan returned to his small courtyard and muttered to himself. According to the plot, Uchiha Itachi should have returned to Konoha with the dried persimmon Onako at this time, ostensibly to grab the 9 tails, but in fact, it was just to remind Konoha's ninjas. Shao organized and set his sights on Naruto. The 2 powerful combinations of weasel and dried persimmon ghost mackerel, for the current lecherous immortals, how can they fight 1 to 2, but they are all weasel's rhetoric. However, for the return of these 2 people, Fei Duan is not without any ideas. In this Konoha collapse plan, Orochimaru exposed the forbidden technique of soil rebirth for the first time, and Uchiha Itachi would naturally guess the resurrection he had promised. And for the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, the flying section is more optimistic, of course, just optimistic about the big knife mackerel muscle of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. The 7 swords of the Mistine, as a collection control, there is no reason to let go of this existence of the head of the 7 swords sent to the door. Fei Duan is really quite interested in such things as the ability of the mackerel to absorb chakra and pass it on to the host, and it can even be said that the mackerel muscle is a creature at all. According to what Hidan previously knew, it seems that the mackerel is a small fish that follows the 3 tails and is responsible for helping the 3 tails absorb and consume the chakra, usually attached to Iso's stomach, responsible for cleaning up the residue, and sucking food from Iso's stomach, refining a large amount of chakra, and then sending chakra back to Iso's body. The strength of the mackerel muscle lies in the fact that it can extract 5 times the normal chakra from food, and the chakra stored in the mackerel body will continue to flow into the Iso body during the Battle of Iso. What interests Fei Duan the most, the mackerel muscle can actually absorb even the 8-tailed beast Jade in the second form of state, which makes Fei Duan's eyes a little hot. Episode 98. A foggy morning. Walking in Konoha's village, Itachi felt the changes in Konoha over the years, and felt inexplicable emotion in his heart. Find a place to rest and find out the news. By the way, dried persimmon Onako suggested. As Uchiha Itachi's partner, the relationship between them is also quite good, and he can also feel the mood swings in Uchiha Itachi's heart. Good. After a moment of silence, the ferret agreed. No one knew what was going on in his mind, but if he could, he wished he could stay here for even 1 more minute. This place filled him with nostalgia, but had to stay away, a place full of pain and memories. The 2 found a noodle shop and sat down quietly, listening to what the crowd was talking about. However, one person noticed the strangeness of the 2 of them and set his sights on them. Kakashi, keen intuition, told him that there was something wrong with these 2. And judging from the breath of the 2 people, both of them are masters. Others must be notified. Kakashi walked out of the store, but just happened to see the oncoming Sarutobi Asma following behind Sunset Red with a fawning face, and Sunset Red was grim and did not give Asma a good look at all. In fact, since experiencing the illusion of the flying segment, Sunset Red has begun to stay away from Asma. Coupled with the slight adjustment of the later flying segment, Asma's figure has completely faded in Sunset Hong's mind. However, poor Asma, who didn't know what was happening at all, was alienated by Sunset Red, so much so that he thought that he had done something wrong, and he had been working to please Sunset Red these days. However, Sunset Red did not appreciate it at all. Yo? Is this a quarrel? Kakashi leaned against the door, wanting to say hello to the two, but his eyes glanced inside the store, signaling Asma and Sunset Red. Asma and Sunset Red naturally make sense at one point. Asma asked even more cooperatively, "Why did you actually have a rare person appear here today?" "I'm waiting for someone," Kakashi replied. "Wait for someone? Who can make Kakashi? You wait here early in the morning?" Asma asked with interest. "Oh, I'm waiting for Sasuke," Kakashi replied, as he was acutely aware that when he mentioned Sasuke, one of the two inside, holding the cup, was noticeably harder. Sasuke seemed to be acting with Kakashi, and as soon as Kakashi's words fell, Sasuke appeared in front of them, but there was another figure beside him, Hibito. "Oh? Fly Duan, you actually went out." Sunset Hong's face turned slightly red, and she asked in surprise. She knew that since the death of the third generation, Hidan rarely went out except in the yard, and today he actually came out with Sasuke. After Hida arrived, his eyes followed Kakashi's guidance and looked inside the small shop. On the table where the two were originally located, they had long since lost their figures, leaving only 2 cups of steaming tea. Kakashi looked at Hida and Asma, signaling Sasuke to be here, and he didn't leave. "I'll go. I haven't seen this old friend for a long time. You are not the opponent of these two." Hibito stood up and said to Kakashi, "Old friend? Do you know them?" Kakashi asked suspiciously, although he sensed that there was something wrong with the two men, but after all, he did not see the real face. Kakashi was also half aware now, and he only had a little guess. "It's our old friend, Uchiha Itachi." A smile appeared on Hijuan's face, and he did not shy away from Sasuke, and directly said the name of one of them. However, Sasuke, who was standing on the side, couldn't stop trembling after hearing this name. He stared ahead with his eyes inattentive, and a cold sweat fell from his head. "Flying segment!" Kakashi yelled, not understanding why Hibito had said the man's name in front of Sasuke. He knew Sasuke's hatred for that man, and he didn't have the slightest scruples, which made Kakashi a little angry. Hibito shook his head at Kakashi and motioned for him to be quiet. "Sasuke," Hibito called out in a low voice. He didn't want to see Sasuke so cowardly after going through his own grind. "Yes, it's." Sasuke's teeth chattered a little in response, and the hatred in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Fei Duan's brows frowned slightly, and in addition to hatred, Uchiha brought him deep fear. And this fear and hatred is completely different from the feelings that Hida brought to Sasuke with illusion. Even if, for a period of time, Hida continued to let Sasuke experience that cruel side. But illusion was only illusion after all, although Sasuke had always hinted that he had forgotten this fear, leaving only hatred constantly fermenting. When the real weasel appeared, the hidden fear still burst out. "That's not going to work." Hijuan shook his head. How could this work? He had to let Sasuke dispel his fear of Itachi, leaving only simple hatred to make him grow faster. "Fly segment. What exactly are you thinking?" Kakashi couldn't help but speak. Sasuke was his disciple. He cared about them from the bottom of his heart. However, the current flying segment was unfavorable to Sasuke in his opinion. "Me? I just want him to face his fears, and how can he move forward when his heart is full of fear?" "Right, Sasuke." Hijuan turned his head to look at Sasuke. "If you want to break the fear of him in your heart, follow me. If you don't want to, then treat it as if I didn't say anything." Sasuke heard Hito's words and raised his head with difficulty, a trace of determination flashing in his hate-filled eyes. "I go." Sasuke shouted loudly, as if this would release the fear in his heart. "Sasuke." Kakashi's face changed drastically. He didn't think it was necessarily a good thing for Sasuke to meet Itachi. That would only keep exacerbating Sasuke's hatred. And in fact, that's what the flying segment wants to see. A person who grows with hatred as a driving force, the deeper the hatred, the more motivated he is to become stronger. Fei Duan's face finally showed a smile and said, "Let's go." Episode 99. By Konoha's small lake, Weasel and Oni walk unhurriedly. Suddenly, the steps of the two stopped and stood in place without moving. "Long time no see, Itachi." "Uchiha Itachi." A voice like an old friend greeting and a voice full of hatred sounded, and the figures of Hida and Sasuke appeared behind Itachi and Oni. The two people standing in front slowly turned around and took off the cloak above their heads. "Hida, Sasuke, long time no see." Itachi set his gaze on Sasuke's body and slowly greeted the two. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel looked at them interestingly, and he was not in a hurry to make a move for the two who had a relationship with the weasel. "Uchiha Weasel." Hida didn't speak, but Sasuke shouted again, full of hatred. The so-called enemies meet each other, even if it is their own brother. Sasuke couldn't hold back any longer, and rushed at Itachi, pulling out several shurikens in his hand. So. Bite. 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 Itachi also shot several shurikens, and instantly bounced Sasuke's shuriken, and even shot towards Sasuke unabated. Sasuke pulled out his shuriken again to block, and in the blink of an eye he swept away all the shurikens that came at him. Itachi, do you need me to make a move? The dried persimmon mackerel asked from the side of the ferrets. He's your own brother. No, you better pay more attention to that man. The ferret directly refused, indicating the position of the flying section with his eyes. Hidan was watching Sasuke and Itachi fighting with interest at this time, and he had no intention of interfering. Anyway, Itachi would not really kill Sasuke. Oh? Is he strong? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel asked with some interest. His favorite thing was to fight with the strong. Very strong. If you don't pay attention, you will die, Itachi said coldly, but he clearly remembered that Fei Duan's terrifying curse ability. As long as he got the blood of the enemy, the strange curse could be launched. Don't bleed, the weasel said like a hint, and then there was no too much explanation. The ghost mackerel is a smart person, and naturally understands that what the weasel said must contain deep meaning. Zenun Noon, Chidori. Taking advantage of the gap between Itachi speaking to the Oni fish, Sasuke decisively launched Chidori, and the whole person's speed surged, and he burst into Itachi's body in the blink of an eye. Itachi showed a look of surprise. He didn't expect that Sasuke had actually mastered such a powerful ninjutsu. However, the gap between Sasuke and Itachi is still too big, so big that it is not a person at all level, even if it is a powerful ninjutsu, except for psychic techniques like soil rebirth. Otherwise, Sasuke would not have the slightest possibility of being able to defeat Uchiha Itachi. Sure enough, Itachi only lightly turned on one side, and Sasuke's Chidori was easily overtaken by it, and then kicked in the abdomen by Itachi. The terrifying force made Sasuke's mouth instantly leave a trace of blood. Sasuke was kicked directly to the surface of the water by that kick and rolled above the surface for a while before stopping. Ahem. Sasuke coughed violently, and was hit by Itachi's kick. He was already injured quite a bit, and even his body began to disobey the command a little. Itachi, are you so cruel to your own brother? The dry persimmon Oni said with some surprise. He didn't expect that Itachi would really be able to make a move on Sasuke. In his opinion, the ferret does not look like a bad guy in the true sense of the word. Itachi didn't answer, just looked at Sasuke with cold eyes and slowly walked towards him. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel no longer took care of Itachi and Sasuke, but turned his gaze and looked at Hidan, and at the same time held the large knife mackerel muscle in his hand. Since they have all started, let's also have a fight. I hope your chakra can satisfy the muscles. Fei Duan looked at the ghost mackerel. He knew quite well about this so-called wu-tailed beast, and it had a very terrifying and huge chakra, plus the existence of the mackerel. His chakra can be described as unlimited, and the ninjutsu he unleashes is almost all super-wide existence. A spatial vortex appeared at Fei Duan's right eye, and an exaggerated large knife was released from his right eye and held in his hand. Decapitate the big knife. It seems that you killed the guy and didn't behead that guy, the dry persimmon ghost mackerel said with emotion. The same 7 people with ninja swords. They still have a lot of feelings about the death of another person. Fei Duan didn't say much, holding a knife in his right hand, thunder flashing in his left hand. Chidori instantly formed, attacking the dry persimmon ghost mackerel. He wanted to see if the mackerel muscles were really as legendary. After all, only by seeing it with your own eyes can you fully understand. The 1,000 birds carried a perfect arc and slashed towards the body of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, and when they saw that they were about to touch the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel violently pulled out the mackerel muscle and slashed fiercely on the flying section of the 1,000 birds. Fei Duan clearly felt that his chakra was being released along the Chidori at a speed of several pieces and was absorbed by the mackerel muscle. Unless he stops the release of the 1,000 birds, chakra will be absorbed all the time, and the size of the muscles that constantly absorb the flying chakra will continue to increase. It's really a vigorous chakra. The muscles are already getting excited. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel grinned. It seems that the guy in the weasel's mouth is not as strong as imagined. Fei Duan's lilac pupils flickered slightly, and with a sharp push of his left hand, his figure pulled back, and he confronted the dried persimmon ghost mackerel from a distance. It's really worthy of being a big knife muscle, and it's really a good fit for you, who is known as a tailed beast. Fei Duan had to sigh that such a pair, as long as he did not encounter a strange person like Kairabi, or was stronger than too many enemies, he was regarded as an invincible existence. His strength is far beyond the average Hokage. The flying segment opened the distance, but the dried persimmon ghost mackerel did not want to let the flying segment go so easily. Water dragon bomb. The flowing water in the lake was instantly pulled by the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, chakra, turned into a water dragon, and attacked the flying section. Fei Duan looked at this menacing water dragon, without the slightest panic, unhurried imprint. Fire boom. The roaring flames spewed out from Fei Duan's mouth, and with the power of the right eye's divine power to distort space, it turned into a huge fire tornado, which instantly evaporated the water dragon into a wisp of blue smoke. And the fire tornado is unabated towards the attack of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. Episode 100. It's useless. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel laughed viciously and held the huge mackerel muscle in front of him. When the fire tornado swept over, the flames that chakra turned into were still swallowed up by the muscles, and the blazing high temperature was fleeting. After absorbing the explosive wind, the muscles of the mackerel shook the barb-like scales all over their bodies as if they were a little unhappy, and the collision between the scales made a crackling sound. Oh? Is it a little hot? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel looked at the mackerel, and then stuffed the mackerel into the lake water under his feet. Muscle. Now it's even more unhappy. Hida, compared to yaoi kairabi, this one really just uses the muscles as a tool. If yaoi would probably comfort it. Fei Duan, your eyes, what's going on? Itachi, who had already knocked Sasuke to the ground and used Tsukiyomi to make Sasuke fall into illusion, looked at the flying section that used explosive wind dancing and asked. He obviously felt the breath of the same origin. That was the pupil power of the Uchiha clan, the pupil power of the kaleidoscope chakra eye, and even his pupil strength surpassed his own. How is this possible? Itachi loudly denied this fact in his heart. Fei Duan was not a member of the Uchiha clan at all. He knew this best, so where did Fei Duan's eyes come from, and opened the kaleidoscope? What's wrong, Itachi? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel stopped the pace of the upcoming attack and asked the ferrets. This man's eyes. Itachi was filled with an unbelievable tone, and as a genius of the Uchiha clan, he could not understand such a thing. Oh? Weasel, he actually has eyes similar to yours. Doesn't it mean that the Uchiha clan is left with only you and your brother? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel suddenly reacted and looked at Fei Duan's eyes, a little surprised. Fei Duan smiled faintly, and the figure of Uchiha was reflected in the pair of eternal kaleidoscopes. If it's not the Uchiha family, can't you open the kaleidoscope chakra eye? Weasel, you are still too naive. Fei Duan said half-truthfully, it does not want to expose the ability to deprive others of the blood succession limit, not to mention, isn't there another example of outsiders opening the kaleidoscope? Kakashi is the best proof of this. Even Kakashi had already opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan, but he couldn't use it now. Itachi, don't forget the agreement between us. I think you already know the technique that Konoha has passed down. Fei Duan changed the topic and said, he didn't believe that Uchiha Itachi really took his family so lightly. Could it really be that the village was above all else? To be honest, Hidan initially appreciated Uchiha Itachi, but with the passage of time, as well as his own personal experience, he can now be said to be a little disgusted and even hates Uchiha Itachi. In the eyes of Fei Duan, nothing is more precious than family affection. Not to mention, if the weasel and others slaughtered their entire clan by themselves, this completely contradicted the view of the flying segment, so that the current flying segment has long lost its original attitude towards the person of the ferret. What for the sake of the village, you can sacrifice the whole clan, for the sake of the younger brother you can carry everything, it is a bullshit truth. If Fei Duan were him, with parents who loved them so much, and people who could be called united, he would not hesitate to help them rebel. The weasel fell into deep thought, and finally, he said with some pain, that kind of technique will only disturb the souls of the dead, so why let them disturb the land of the living again? Fei Duan glanced at Uchiha Itachi with a somewhat dull look in his eyes. He didn't expect such words to come out of his mouth. At least he thought that Uchiha Itachi had more or less heavy nostalgia for his family, but now it seems that this is a madman who is completely for the village. Others say that the Uchiha family is a family of love, because of the depth of love, so after losing love, they will have evil power. But Fei Duan looked at the person in front of him. Is this really a person who is full of love for his own race? I have to say, you disappointed me. Itachi. Fei Duan shook his head and said with a regretful expression. People grow, don't they, Fei Duan? The weasel's face always remained as calm as death, like the stagnant water in an ancient well, without a trace of waves. Another point, Fei Duan, everything about you is under my watch, including your recent behavior. You have lost control, and you are no longer suitable to stay in the village, the ferret said coldly again. Fei Duan looked at the weasel with strange eyes, a little confused about what he meant. Absolute confidence makes Fei Duan not believe that Weasel can spy on him without being detected, but with his knowledge of Weasel is definitely not a person without purpose. Fei Duan's eyes began to gradually turn cold, and the eternal kaleidoscope radiated a dangerous light in his eyes, and he no longer had the heart to entangle with them. Hibito's intuition told him that something must have happened in Konoha village at this time that he did not expect, and this transformation would definitely affect his original plan. No matter what kind of change, but it is useless in the end. In the face of real power, everything is a bubble existence. The eternal kaleidoscope of the flying segment gradually dimmed and turned into the original lilac pupils. However, the weasel and the ghost mackerel suddenly changed their faces, and did not relax, because the kaleidoscope of the flying section disappeared, but became more vigilant. 8 doors Dunjia shocking door, open. Under the horrified eyes of the weasel and the ghost mackerel, a terrifying blue steam appeared on Fei Duan's body. The 8 doors of Dunjia, the 7th door, the shocking door opened, the terrifying chakra that erupted was shocking, and Fei Duan's face was slightly red. That was because of the physical excitement brought about by the outbreak of the 8 doors of Dunjia. Because of the existence of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, combined with the genius of the Uchiha weasel, one can absorb chakra, and the other has unparalleled wisdom and strength. What made Fei Duan most afraid was that the eyes that belonged to the water stop in the hand of the weasel had the eyes of other heavenly gods. What a strong chakra! The dried persimmon ghost mackerel exclaimed, and unconsciously clenched the muscles in his hand. Be careful, this is the 8 doors dunjia, not just chakra. The physical technique is the real strength of this door forbidden technique. Itachi's chakra eyes directly opened into kaleidoscope mode, staring at the flying section deadly. Once as a member of Konoha, he had a good understanding of this forbidden art. Episode 101. Fei Duan listened to the weasel's reminder to the ghost mackerel, and just sneered faintly. Even if it reminds the ferrets, what can it do? Under the absolute speed and strength, even Itachi's Amaterasu is difficult to follow his figure. Be careful! The weasel shouted, but it was still too late. Boom! Fei Duan slammed into the side of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, a side kick, and the terrifying force made the dry persimmon ghost mackerel shoot out directly, splashing monstrous waves on the lake. Ahem, so fast, the dry persimmon ghost mackerel said in horror, if it weren't for the weasel barely keeping up with the figure of the flying segment, prompting him, I am afraid that this moment, he would have been hit hard by it. Despite this, he was still traumatized a lot, and blood spilled from his mouth. Sand. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel looked at the large knife mackerel muscle in front of him, although there was no damage, but it seemed that the mackerel muscle was expressing a meaning called fear to him. Ghost mackerel. Don't let the blood get the other person. Just as the ghost mackerel stood up and prepared to fight back, the weasel suddenly shouted loudly. However, with the speed of the flying segment now far exceeding the speed of sound, before the sound of the weasel's reminder arrived, the flying segment had already appeared behind the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. It's late. The cold voice of the flying segment and the prompt sound of the weasel sounded at the same time beside the ghost mackerel. The ghost mackerel has never reacted so quickly in his life, and under the pressure of the flying segment, it instantly fused with the mackerel muscle, and the barbed scales of the mackerel muscle completely covered the back of the ghost mackerel. Whoosh! The decapitation knife cut through the scales of the mackerel muscle, carrying a series of sparks. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel instantly retreated towards the side of the ferret with his strength, and at the same time quickly formed a mark on his hand, and the strength of the enemy in front of him was unprecedented in his eyes. But fortunately, this is a huge lake, which can be said to be a special venue for dried persimmon ghost mackerel. Shui dun thousand food fish. Huaduan how fireball. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel and the weasel attacked at the same time, and hundreds of sharks condensed by chakra appeared from the lake and all bit towards the flying section. And the huge blazing fireball above the surface of the water also swept towards the flying section, and the weasel even used his superb shuriken skills to make countless shurikens seal the retreat of the flying segment. For such a seamless cooperation, Fei Duan estimated that in the Shao organization, only these two guys could do it. After all, only these two guys trust each other and have a tacit understanding like real partners. For such two people, the flying segment naturally has to give enough respect, and the right hand begins to charge. Day Tiger. The furious momentum forced all the surrounding lakes apart, and a huge white tiger appeared in vain, roared to the sky, and then rushed towards the two with great momentum. The terrifying white tiger swallowed up the shark, fireball, and shuriken like a broken bamboo, and then fiercely swallowed the two of them. Shui dun, big food shark. Feeling the terrifying momentum of the day tiger, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel instantly froze and released his own big move. A shark almost on a par with the day tiger bit towards the white tiger with the same ferocity, temporarily fighting it. Fei Duan looked at the shark who was fighting against the day tiger with cold eyes, and a sneer opened at the corner of his mouth. Kai used this trick to easily crack the trick of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, and hit him hard. How is it possible? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel shouted, and a rare panic appeared in his eyes. The ninjutsu that the big food mackerel was able to devour the other party and then grew and became more and more terrifying, but why can't he devour the other party's ninjutsu now? The heart of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was full of haze. This is physical art, not ninjutsu. The ferret standing beside him finally gave the answer, although he knew the forbidden technique of the 8 gates of Dunjia, but he didn't know what kind of kills were in it, because no one has ever done it. Now, Fei Duan used it, and through the observation of the Sharingan, he naturally understood the reason why the day tiger could not be devoured. Physical skills. How is this possible? How can there be such physical skills? The dried persimmon ghost mackerel was completely stunned. There was such a terrifying physical technique in the world. Was this really something that humans could use? However, now it is too late for them to think more. The murderous white tiger has already torn the big shark with its sharp claws, and with the support of the flying segment, it is still extremely ferocious, and it wants to tear the enemy in front of them to pieces. Amaterasu. A stream of blood flowed from the right eye of the weasel, and the pitch-black flame was instantly ignited in front of his eyes, and the day tiger transformed by physical skills was also ignited, and then burned continuously under the flames until it dissipated. Oh? The unreliable Amaterasu, really everything can burn, but no one can burn to death. Fei Duan is really a little speechless about this skill, especially in the whole episode. It is rare to see someone burned to death by Amaterasu, but it looks quite strong, claiming that wherever the line of sight can see, everything does not burn. Retreat, this time to meet him, it already means the failure of the operation. Itachi said with some gasps that Amaterasu's release was still a big burden for him, plus the flying segment that also had a kaleidoscope writing wheel. I could not be afraid of moon reading. Then his means are only left with Susanoo, a whole card, which he does not want to use now. Damn, it's really unwilling to withdraw like this. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel said very unwillingly. He himself can say that he is now completely restrained by the flying segment, and his inability to absorb other people's chakra means that he cannot use the mackerel muscle to quickly recover his injuries. Retreat? Do you still think you can retreat with your whole body? Weasel, when did you become so naive too? The flying section in the state of shocking door opening not only did not have the slightest fatigue, but also had a fierce situation. Such a fierce battle may be what he liked. Crushing enemies like you do with the blood chakra sometimes takes too much fun. Weasel. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel looked at Uchiha Itachi, and the meaning was obvious. It seems that he can't leave now. The weasel ignored the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, and there was no panic on that ancient Welwubwa's face. Fei Duan, don't force me. Don't forget the eyes that stop the water. Itachi pulled out another whole card, because he wasn't sure if he would be able to continue to support himself after using Susanoo. But he can't die yet. Sasuke hasn't grown up yet. He can only die at Sasuke's hands. Episode 102. While speaking, a pitch-black crow was channeled by a weasel. Its right eye was a normal crow eye, and its left eye was a strange chakra eye. Whale. The crow whispered and stood on the ferret's shoulder. This was originally prepared for Sasuke, but now the flying segment made him have to use it as a threat. If he died now, then Sasuke was afraid that he would collapse immediately, and the enemy he had always wanted to get rid of actually died inexplicably, and that feeling was desperate. Therefore, Itachi cannot die now. He is the target of Sasuke's hatred and growth. As soon as Fei Duan saw the appearance of that crow, he immediately closed his eyes. Even if he opened the eternal kaleidoscope, Fei Duan was not sure whether he could resist the power of other heavenly gods. He doesn't want to take risks, and he doesn't like to take risks. The feeling that makes people keep themselves, but do things against their own will, just thinking about it, is terrifying. But Fei Duan didn't want to let go of this opportunity. The ferret was not the target he wanted to kill, but on the contrary, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was the person Fei Duan wanted to kill the most now. Because this existence is too special, not only is its own chakra huge, but it also has the ability to absorb other people's chakra similar to that of a mackerel. It's just not as good as the muscles, which can absorb all the ninjutsu. What's more, this is still a master who is proficient in water dun. There are almost no water denjutsu that he can't know, and his special abilities are all favored by the flying section. Hida, since you have opened the kaleidoscope chakra eye belonging to the Uchiha clan, are you until a forbidden technique called Izanami? Seeing that Fei Duan still did not intend to stop, Weasel once again threw his ultimate whole card. Izanami. Fei Duan almost forgot about this pit daddy's ninjutsu. This illusion art can actually be released without the help of eyes, directly according to the body's senses to form illusion. If you don't transform it according to the caster's wishes, you will be trapped in illusion forever. Itachi, are you really willing to do that? One eye loses light forever as a price, then Sasuke. Fei Duan was not in a hurry, but asked the weasel instead. Can the Sharingan, which has completely lost its light, still be able to become the material for Sasuke to fuse? Apparently not. After releasing Izanami, if any eye has been abolished, it will have no effect at all. The ferret looked at Fei Duan with a cold face and said, if you have to force us, then you can give it a try. I also want to know that you, who also have kaleidoscopic chakra eyes, can be evil. Can't afford to mess with it. This guy is really a special madman. He can't help but threaten you with his eyes, afraid or not. Fear. Of course I'm afraid. Hidan is clear that when Sasuke explained the scene of Izana, it was almost the existence of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes, and the result was not easily restrained by Io. Even the eternal kaleidoscope may not be able to be controlled, but if something is affected, it is also undesirable for the flying segment. Leave the mackerel, you can go, this is my last bottom line. Fei Duan is a little helpless. The whole card on this guy is really distressing existence. Before he gets the Eye of Reincarnation, Fei Duan really doesn't dare to treat him excessively. And you can't kill him now. He is the only way for Sasuke to grow. Once he dies now, then Sasuke will definitely collapse immediately. Even whether Sasuke can live is a question. It can be said that Itachi is the source of growth power for Sasuke's hatred, so he can't die now. Sasuke is an expectant existence of Hida, and even, the faster Sasuke grows, the more Hida looks forward to it, even Naruto. Fei Duan has deep expectations for them. Give it to him, Oni fish, otherwise it will be difficult for us to leave today. And those guys from Konoha village are about to arrive. The ferret persuaded to the dried persimmon ghost mackerel beside him, as long as the person is still there. After all, talent is the foundation of strength, and weapons only play the icing on the cake. Abominable. Take it. I hope you can keep this knife all the time. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel cursed angrily, dissolved the hemais with the mackerel muscle, and then threw the mackerel muscles towards the flying segment. Fei Duan smiled slightly. When he saw the ferret persuading the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, he knew that he must have succeeded. The dried persimmon Oni fish respects and trusts Itachi no less than Uchiha Obito, so he will definitely listen to what Itachi says. Kamui. The kaleidoscopic riding wheel of the flying section appeared, and during the flight of the mackerel, a spatial vortex suddenly appeared, instantly sucking the mackerel muscle into it. Fei Duan doesn't want to hold it in his hand. The muscles that don't recognize the master can only be forcibly controlled, and it's troublesome to use, and Fei Duan doesn't want to waste time on subduing the muscles now. His attention was now on Konoha village, and he had a faint premonition in his heart that Itachi must have done something. Otherwise he would not have said that he was no longer fit to stay in the village. Go, Konoha's people should be about to arrive. If we don't leave, we will all be left here. The ferret decisively flew away, and the dried persimmon ghost mackerel also followed, but a pair of shark eyes looked back at Fei Duan with cruelty. Fei Duan looked at the distant figures of the two and put his eyes on the shore of the lake, where several figures were eagerly coming. Lifting the posture of the eight-door Duanjia, Fei Duan lifted Sasuke up and walked unhurriedly to the shore, waiting for someone to come. He wanted to see what Itachi had done to get himself banished from Konoha, and Itachi wasn't worried about what he would do to Sasuke. Soon, Fei Duan saw clearly who was coming. The person who took the lead was actually a guy who Fei Duan couldn't think of, but when Fei Duan saw him, he understood everything. At the same time, from the other direction, there is also a figure rushing towards Fei Duan, that graceful figure, light steps, and full of affection for Fei Duan in her eyes. She was sent out by Fei Duan to find something. Xiao Nan. Catch the woman first. The leader of Konoha shouted, and several members of the Dark Division around him immediately rushed towards Conan. And the leader stood in front of him with a group of people who made Fei Duan very familiar. Episode 103. Several people who came looked at Fei Duan with strange eyes, while the leader had cold eyes. Yo, Kakashi, Kai, Sunset Red, Asma, Jiraiya, everyone is here. Fei Duan was like greeting an old friend, not caring about their strange eyes. Then, Fei Duan said coldly word by word, regiment. Hide. He finally understood that Itachi was allegedly watching him, and that crow with water-stopping eyes did not let Tuanzo be ordered by Faden at all, but by Itachi. Only in this way can the weasel plant a pawn and put it next to the flying segment for it to trust. After all, the fundamental recognition of the flying Duan trust is the strength of the celestial god, and this is exactly where the weasel uses it, and the flying section does not notice. What a long-term guy. Every step is at the forefront, although the strength is not as good, but he has already prepared for it. Although he was punished by the weasel, Fei Duan not only did not get angry, but praised. For such a person who uses his mind well, Fei Duan is still very admirable, even if he stands on the opposite side. And who can say exactly what happened later? Is an enemy necessarily an enemy? Hida, colluding with Orochimaru, the ninja of the Sand Ninja Village, invaded Konoha in an attempt to cause a war. I have the recording you left when you looked for me. Do you have anything else to say? Tuanzong was holding a wooden stick, constantly tapping on the ground, and asked Fei Duan word by word. He threw all the faults on the head of the flying segment, and even recorded the previous orders given to him by the flying segment, which became a strong evidence. Anyway, the people of Sand Ninja Village and Oto Ninja Village are already dead, and now that he presents evidence, who will believe Fei Duan? Even if he had eliminated the Ichigo Morizuru who attacked Konoha, it would not be able to wash away his black cauldron. Flying segment, why? Why do it all? As a former colleague, Kakashi asked incomprehensibly, although he had doubts before, but when the evidence was in front of him, he was still a little difficult to accept. Fei Duan, you have been wronged, right? Sunset Hong was even more unacceptable, and walked directly to the flying section, hoping to draw an affirmative answer from his mouth. Fei Duan smiled at her faintly, denied or admitted. Does this matter? Fei Duan doesn't care at all whether others have wronged themselves, so it's good to kill him. Kamui. The eternal kaleidoscope barrel erupted, instantly sucking the sunset red into the blood sea space. This is the woman he fancy. Naturally he wants to take it away. Since they were all suspected and even affirmed, he was not willing to continue to stay in Konoha. Konoha longs for false peace, but he doesn't want to stay here. He wants to set up his own ninja village, and he also has the capital to establish a ninja village. Red. Sunset Red. Kakashi and the others hurriedly shouted, but it was simply too late, and the speed of space was much faster than expected. Fei Duan, hurry up and release the red. Asma's eyes were torn, and his psychology was full of anger when he saw that the person he admired was so easily captured by Fei Duan. The two chakra knives were held in their hands desperately, and they couldn't wait to fight with them immediately. Xiaonan, it's time to go. Fei Duan did not pay attention to Asma and the others, but shouted at Xiaonan, who was fighting fiercely with several members of the Dark Division. Xiaonan instantly turned into pieces of paper flying in the sky, disturbing the enemy's line of sight while also transferring himself to Fei Duan's side. Master. After many days, Xiaonan looked at Fei Duan with affection, and the attachment in his eyes was completely revealed. Fei Duan also answered gently, and then looked at Tuanzong and the others, but there was a dangerous and crazy light flashing in his eyes. You guys, are you planning to stop us? Danzo. Fei Duan's cold voice echoed in the ears of several people, making them feel like walking on a cold iceberg, and the wanton killing intent continued to erode their will. Let him go. In the end, Danzo gave the order, and now that Sarutobi Hinata is dead, his power in Konoha is also considered to be the highest level, except for the two major advisors, Mido Menyen and Koharu. He can now be said to be like the sky. What? How can you let him go? He killed Sarutobi-sensei. Before Kakashi and the others could refute, they made a fuss first. His eyes were full of complexity and hatred, and he never expected that the person he taught the art of channeling would actually be the one who killed his teacher. We are not his opponents, of course. If you are confident, you can also try it and see if you can keep him. Danzo calmly said that he was controlled by Itachi, and he had a certain understanding of the power of the flying stage, so naturally he would not let the people of Konoha make any unnecessary sacrifices. Jiraiya-sama, Sasuke is still in his hands. Please don't act rashly, Kakashi reminded. Everyone's eyes also looked at Sasuke, who Fei Duan was holding in his hand, and they couldn't help but shrink their pupils again, and the rat thrower was probably used to describe their current situation. Abominable. Zilai also forcibly endured the anger in his heart, and abruptly stopped the pace he planned to strike. Hand over Yuhi and Sasuke, you have nothing to do with Konoha from now on. Kakashi said to the flying segment with some bitterness. He couldn't understand why he had come to this situation. As he spoke, Kakashi also took out his shuriken, meaning to do it if he didn't agree with him. And Asma has already activated the chakra knife, looking at the flying section with a fierce eye. As long as the flying section refuses to hand over the sunset red, then he will start as soon as possible. Xiaonan, go and accompany Hong first, I'll accompany you in a moment. Xiaonan nodded obediently, and then Fei Duan used Shunwei to transfer Xiaonan in. Then, Fei Duan looked at the people in front of him and said lightly, it is naturally impossible for sunset red to be returned, but Sasuke, let's listen to his own opinion. Sasuke. Wake up. Hida lifted Sasuke's eyelids and used the moon reading to sober Sasuke up, although his spirit was injured by Itachi, but he was finally sober. Sasuke slowly opened his eyes and looked at everyone in front of him, all at a loss. Feilu reminds you, 3 things to read. Favorites, recommendations. Episode 104. What's going on? Sasuke's voice was a little hoarse, obviously tormented by Itachi. Sasuke, it's time to do multiple choice questions. How do you want to choose? Hidan looked down at Sasuke and said a little playfully, choice? Sasuke asked with his hand over his head. The mental pain was far from being comparable to the physical pain, which made the young Sasuke a little unbearable, and was forcibly awakened by Hidan, and the blow to him was even greater. Sasuke, Hida betrayed Konoha. It was he who joined forces with Orochimaru to start a war. In the hands of Lord Tuanzong, there is already definite evidence. Kakashi immediately interjected, hoping that Sasuke would understand what kind of situation the current flying stage was for. He didn't want Sasuke to follow Hida and never return. In that case, he was really ashamed of the instructions of the 3 generations of Hokage. Betrayal? Sasuke looked at the flying segment with some doubt, and the flying segment did not know whether to say anything, did not affirm, did not deny. Let's hurry up and make your choice, Sasuke. Fei Duan said flatly, then remembered something again, and said to Sasuke again, I can give you strength, and your dead family. Fei Duan's eyes flashed with strange colors. The army of dirt rebirth, it's time to appear. And their existence can still make Sasuke a pawn in his hand. What better ending than this? Hidan firmly believes that there are only 2 pursuits in Sasuke's life. One is the power of revenge, and the other is his relatives. When he is faced with these 2 things, how can he not be moved? Sure enough, Sasuke didn't react too much when he heard the power, just his eyes began to shine. But when he heard the words, dead family, his pupils contracted violently, like the tip of a needle, and his mouth muttered hoarsely, really target is it? I unmeet them? Compared with Sasuke's disbelief, the faces of several people in Konoha changed drastically. They had just experienced the attack of the Great Snake Pill, and they had a deep memory of the dirt rebirth technique used by the Great Snake Pill. When Hidan mentioned Sasuke's dead family, they immediately thought of Hidan's plan. Sasuke. Don't believe him. He's just cheating on you. The dead are already dead after all, how can they meet you again? Kakashi shouted to Sasuke with some eagerness, afraid that Sasuke would fall into the lie woven by Hida. Lies? Kakashi, you seem to underestimate me too much. Hibito threw Kakashi a mocking smile, even if he knew that it was a dirt reincarnation. So what? Would Sasuke give up the opportunity to meet and spend time with his clan and relatives? Of course not. After all, the Uchiha family is a family of love. Fei Duan said to Sasuke bluntly, Sasuke, see the trick used by the big snake pill that day. It is that move that can pull the soul of the deceased from the pure land to the filthy land, so as to transform into an immortal body and appear in the world of the living. And the name of that move is called Dirt Rebirth, which has been recorded in the Book of Seals in Konoha village to this day, created by the 2nd generation Hokage Senjuma, but finally completed by Orochimaru. Hida told Sasuke all the information about the rebirth of the soil, and then he just had to wait for his choice. Sasuke, don't be fooled, dirt rebirth is an evil forbidden art, and those who are summoned will be controlled by the caster, not to mention, behind each resurrected existence is another life as its container, otherwise it would not be possible to be reborn at all. Danzo's voice sounded, and he who was controlled by Itachi naturally wanted to explain the evil of soil rebirth for Sasuke, and he didn't want Sasuke to be taken away by Hidan like this. When Sasuke heard that the rebirth of filthy earth needed to use a living person as a soul container, his body couldn't help but tremble slightly, but he lived in fear and hatred all day long. In the end, he chose his own family and strength. In his eyes, nothing is more important than his family, which is why Sasuke does not understand Itachi in the plot, why he has to sacrifice his entire family for Konoha. Desire, ambition, which one does not have, just because of the family's ambition. Itachi is able to betray the entire family, which Sasuke will definitely not tolerate. Let's go. Sasuke stood up with a slight trembling, without a trace of expression on his cold face, just said to Fei Duan lightly, "Wise choice, Sasuke." Fei Duan smiled slightly, reached out and pressed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, intending to use Kamui and leave the place. Everyone didn't notice it, and Tuanzang's face involuntarily twitched a few times. Itachi didn't expect that Sasuke still chose Hidan when he knew that he would sacrifice the living. I have to say that this made Itachi a little disappointed, and this was also the first time he was disappointed in this younger brother. However, he didn't dare to let Konoha's people stop the flying section, and he also had a backhand, so he wasn't too worried about Sasuke's future. But now, he definitely can't let people stop the flying section. Otherwise, once Konoha continues to lose its combat effectiveness, I am afraid that the entire village will receive a threat in his eyes. What's more, even if the people here are combined, they may not be able to stop the flying segment. Retreat, Tuanzang ordered weakly. Danzo-sama, but Sasuke Kakashi wanted to refute, but he also knew that Konoha could not withstand any losses now, so his words were held back alive. Return the red. When Tuanzang decisively gave the order to retreat, Asma could no longer bear it, and Sunset Red was still in Fei Duan's hands, which he absolutely could not accept. Fei Duan looked at the chakra knife that was slashing towards him, and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Since he killed him once in the original plot, it is better to come a second time now. It seems that Asma is destined to die at his own hands. It's just a matter of time. Asma! Stop it. Kakashi and the others hurriedly tried to stop the angry Asma, but it was too late. Episode 105. With the speed of these people, can they be faster than Amaterasu in the flying section? The moment the kaleidoscope of the flying section appeared, Kakashi and the others secretly said badly. Only Danzo's face was still a flat look, without the slightest panic. Amaterasu. For Asma's death-seeking behavior, Fei Duan did not leave any feelings, and it was directly in Amaterasu, shrouded in pitch-black flames. Asma was burned to a slag in full view of Kakashi and the others, and Amaterasu's flames were extinguished as the target disappeared. Asma! Asma! Everyone looked at the big living person who was still standing beside them with sad eyes, but in the next moment it became a pile of residue. Then, goodbye. Hidan smiled and disappeared into everyone's eyes with Kamui with Sasuke. Just after Fei Duan left, Tuanzang stood up when everyone was sad and slowly unsealed the seal on his hand. Tuanzang, you are? Zilai also looked at Tuanzang's actions curiously, although he was also more sad, but after all, he traveled around the world, and he did not have much contact with Asma, so he would not be completely affected by sadness. Tuanzo didn't explain much, just untied the bandage wrapped around his right hand little by little. This is. Kakashi's pupils contracted violently, and the shock was no less than that of seeing Asma's death again, and his eyes stared intently at Danzo's left hand. Zilai and Kai also looked different, as if they had thought of something. It was a right hand that was as pale as a corpse, covered with scarlet three-hooked jade chakra eyes, each eye was turning alive, giving people a huge sense of fear and nausea. Danzo ignored the thoughts of others and began to seal them. Izanagi. Asma did not die for long, and after Izanagi was launched, Asma's figure was like a phantom and then continuously solidified. Everything was in the blink of an eye, and Asma appeared in front of everyone's eyes again, and with Asma's resurrection, a chakra eye on Tuanzo's right arm was closed forever. After doing all this, Danzo silently untied Izanagi, and then wrapped the bandage little by little, and then resealed the entire arm. This is what's going on? Asma asked, looking at Kakashi and Kai who were gathered around him. He had clearly felt his own death. However, now, he actually appeared alive in this world again. Asma couldn't help but sigh with some emotion. It's good to be alive. Asma. Asma. Kakashi and Kai exclaimed one after another. What kind of ability is this? It can actually make people truly resurrected. They had witnessed Asma's death with their own eyes, which made them even more horrified. Could it be that Faden also had such a means to resurrect Sasuke's parents? This is why they do not suspect, although Fei Duan said to use filthy soil rebirth, but who knows his real means? Hidan has been in Konoha for a few years, and Kakashi has seen the endless methods of Hidan. Immortal body, thunder, fire, and Sharingan, each of which was a powerful means, and Kakashi even wondered if there was anything that the flying segment would not. As if sensing Kakashi's doubts, Danzo finally spoke up to explain it to them. This technique, called Izanagi, is a forbidden technique of the Uchiha clan, a technique between illusion and reality, which can only resurrect people who have not been dead for a long time. just like the 3 generations, and they can no longer be resurrected. In fact, when the 3 generations of Hokage died, Itachi did not manipulate Danzo, so it was naturally impossible for Danzo to save the 3 generations by himself. So that's it. Jiraiya, one of the 3 shinobi, sighed, but he clearly saw the scene of the chakra eye closing on Danzo's right hand. Naturally, he also had a certain understanding of Izanagi, and the forbidden technique released at the expense of the Sharingan, and there was a time limit, finally made Jiraiya breathe a sigh of relief. Otherwise, such ninjutsu is rampant, then the Uchiha family has not been invincible for a long time? Abominable. Red was still taken away by him. Asma, who had just come to life, immediately thought of the red that was taken away by Fei Duan, and angry flames flashed in his eyes again. If only you would be alive, Asma. As long as you are alive, there will always be a chance. Kakashi could only comfortably helplessly, otherwise Asma would be in trouble when the time came to chase and kill Faden all day. Konoha's group of people returned to the village helplessly and announced a news that shocked the whole village. Konoha's undead ninja, Hidan, defected and was listed by Konoha as an S-class wanted criminal. As soon as this news came out, it instantly caused an uproar, and the strong man who appeared in Konoha with great difficulty actually defected like this? However, the next moment, the spearhead was immediately led to Tsunade, who had been missing for many years, and even the people of Konoha became extremely suspicious of Tsunade, believing that there had been a rebellion along with Tsunade. Fortunately, Jiraiya, who was also one of the 3 shinobi, also stood up to defend Tsunade, saying that Tsunade was just blinded by Hido and other words to block the villagers' mouths. Since they have all spoken, then they naturally stopped, but the secret gossip has never been broken. And just when Konoha was faltering from the storm, a new topic was put on the agenda: who will be responsible for the 5th generation of Hokage? Originally, according to the meaning of Koharu and Mito Menyen, as one of the 3 shinobi, Jiraiya could also take on the role, but Jiraiya refused, saying that Tsunade would take on this heavy task. But now Tsunade is in an embarrassing situation because of the flying section, and he is obviously not suitable to be the Hokage, so now the only suitable candidate is only one person, Shimura Danzo. When this surprise fell from the sky, Tuanzong really could not have imagined that Fei Duan's defection would actually bring him such a big surprise, which really surprised him at the same time, but also felt extremely comfortable. A big enemy was driven away, and the position of the Hokage fell on him. Is there anything more happy for Danzo than this?